Welcome back. We'll move to the news studios where Ayatunde Balogun is standing by to give us a look at the headlines. Hello, Ayo.
Hello, Neota. Many thanks for being there. Of course, these are the headlines. The National Human Rights Commission, the NHRC, has warned politicians and their supporters against what it calls hate speech, and that's in the run-up to the 2015 general elections. Chairman of the NHRC, Professor Chidi Odinkalu, told a gathering, or he made this known rather, in Abuja at the launch of the pre-election report and advisory on violence in Nigeria's election. Now, Professor Odinkalu at the meeting advised applicants, particularly the presidential flag bearers, to embark on a new campaign pattern devoid of hatred and malice. Now, 12 political parties and their candidates in Osun State have signed a peace pact to ensure violence-free elections. At the peace parley held at the police headquarters in Osogbo, the state capital, the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Oyo, Osun, and Ondo states, Ikeme Funaukoe, says the law will not be lenient with anyone who violates the peace deal. Now, residents of the Federal Capital Territory have been asked to hurry and collect their permanent voters' cards before the March the 8th deadline. National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Dr. Chris Eyimoga, made the appeal after an inspection of some collection centers in the FCT. He decried the low turnout of residents, saying only 71% of the PVCs has so far been collected. And there was an uproar in South Africa's parliament today after opposition members tried to disrupt an annual speech by President Jacob Zuma. The economic freedom fighters, led by Julius Malema, repeatedly interrupted Mr. Zuma, demanding answers over a spending scandal. Speaker of Parliament then ordered their removal, prompting scuffles. The largest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, also walked out in protest at their expulsion. Now, those are the news headlines. It's still Nigeria 2015. Neota, back to you.
Thank you, Ayatunde Balogun. Well, joining us on Skype to discuss the situation here is Mr. Sadiq Abba, a political analyst. I don't know if he's ready for us. Mr. Abba? Okay, we'll come back to him while he's getting ready. But let me come back to you here. I have a comment here by Brian Nelson, who says, before now, the All Progressives Congress has complained about the security situation in the country. So why is it that your party is now complaining that this has been put forth as a reason for the postponement?
We're not the ones that are complaining. We're not the ones that put forward the reason. The security reason, for the reason, I'm sorry, we were not the ones that said, look, the security situation is bad, we cannot continue with the polls. We're not the ones that said
No, but
that.
you have talked about the fact that the security situation is appalling. It's not what it should be.
No, the security situation has been appalling for the past 5 years because of what has happened in the Northeast. We've had millions of people who have been displaced. We've had what I call internal refugees in this country. Of course you complain about that. Of course you complain about people being raped, homes being looted, and so on and so forth.
In the last 5 years. Is it not beyond the last 5 years?
Well, I mean, it's been exacerbated within the last 5 years.
Okay,
and,
let's just flip over to talk to Sadiq Abba, a political analyst. Hello, Mr. Abba. Tell us, what's your take on the postponement? We're looking at the pros and the cons that are a reason from the shift in the election date. What do you think? Are there any pros that can be taken, any lessons, any positives to this postponement? Mr. Abba, can you hear us? Okay, we'll join him again. So you were saying that in the last 5 years it's been exacerbated.
Yes.
And it's not enough, but it's not enough reason for us to stop, take a look, and move forward.
You know, what we are saying is this, and it's so simple. In the Northeast, you have 14 local governments. And there is where we have our problems.
That's the worst.
That's the worst case scenario. 14 local governments out of 774 local governments. We could defer election in that area as an option. And you know, by the way, what I said was that you have 19 million people who hadn't taken up their voter's card. And within the last 10 days or so, so many more have taken up those voters' cards. they're no longer disenfranchised. If we have a few people who have been disenfranchised, it's not the making of any political party. It's because the system hasn't worked the way it should have worked.
Okay.
So what we're saying is that you can't have a perfect system in place anyway. We are going to get into the realm of flouting constitutional provisions by the time 20th of March comes round, and things are not what we expected.
But right now we're still within the constitutional confines.
We absolutely are there, and that's why we are saying to ourselves, okay, we've accepted it. 28th of March is going to be very painful for us. It's going to be very painful for everybody. We've talked about funds being committed. New funds have to be found. Even the European Union has complained that they have spent 1.8 million euros just to support Nigeria with this election process.
But they've also said they'll stay on. Let's
They will stay on.
Mr.
Yes.
Ayitogo, are you still there? Hello, Mr. Ayitogo? Okay, he's not with us for now. The European Union has said they are staying on to monitor the elections. They are not leaving anymore, even though they spent this amount of money. But let's look at other issues that have reason. Are you bothered about speculations about the interim government?
Naturally, I am. There is no provision for it in our constitution. Everybody should be bothered. I've talked about building institutions, and that's what we call nation building. And we have to be careful that people are floating things like interim national government in a democratic
But nobody's
system.
floating that yet. Those are speculations.
Well, that
have reasoned because of, or even before the postponement.
if you're saying that you know, it's not being floated, but it's out there in the, you know, in the public arena, and people are saying, well, would we consider interim national government? Of course, it's not on the table, and it's unconstitutional.
And the government has consistently said there's nothing of that sort in the pipeline.
But I'm used to the government. I'm always used to the government saying something, and then their body language is totally different.
How is the body language different?
And that's where they've always been. That's been the antecedent.
Okay, okay, let's look at saying something and the body language is different. INEC has consistently said that they were ready for these elections, but then it turns out that they are not ready. I mean, if people haven't collected their permanent voters' cards, there's no guarantee of security in 4 states across the north.
You know, I tell you what.
Can I just ask you to hold your thoughts?
Yes.
We'll come back to that conversation.
Okay.
But let's see if we can flip over now and talk to our correspondent, Linda Akiwe, who will be telling us from Abuja what the situation has been like where they went to collect their PVCs. Hello, Linda.
Thank you. We know that after INEC postponed the elections, the electoral body extended the date for the collection of the permanent voters' cards till March 8. And those Nigerians who have not collected their PVCs are being encouraged to do so. Now, earlier in the day, INEC officials inspected some PVC collection centers in the FCT to get a feel of how residents were turning up to collect their PVCs. But so far, here in the FCT, it appears that not many people are taking advantage of the extension to collect their PVCs. At the collection centers today, ad hoc staff told INEC officials and journalists that an average of about 200 permanent voters' cards are being distributed to the residents on a daily basis, compared to about 1,000 voters' cards collected prior to the postponement of the election. This low turnout at the collection centers is not limited to just the city center, but across the satellite towns, and it is indeed worrying for INEC. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you in Lagos.
Thank you, Linda. Now, 200 permanent voters' cards being distributed as against 1,000 that used to be before the postponement. The Deputy National Vice Chairman of the PDP, not Central, Yusuf Ayitogo, is joining us now. Hello, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm around.
Okay, now, see the situation. The elections have been shifted, but it looks as if the desire to pick up the permanent voters' cards has dropped. I mean, they were distributing 1,000 before, now it's only 200. What do you think is the situation? Why is that so?
Well, it is unfortunate. I have earlier stated that INEC are not quite ready for this election. And it will be a disappointment to Nigeria and even to the foreign country. And so INEC is now duty-bound to recruit more ad hoc staff to make sure that all these permanent voter cards are released to the people concerned. Because it will be unfair for some Nigerians to be disenfranchised not to vote. It is their right. And we want everybody to vote. We are ready for this election, and we don't need any disappointment from INEC.
Well, okay. Are you also bothered about, I mean, we've just talked here before, when you were offline, we talked about the fact that there's a speculation of interim government. Is that something that's being touted by your party?
No. That is not in our constitution, and we are not ready for that, because the present government are doing what is good for this country, and in fact, they can be described as the best government so far Nigeria has. So there's no need for any interim government.
Okay, Mr. Ayitogo, the security situation, what will happen if on the 28th the security situation is not what it ought to be?
No, I believe and I have confidence in the Nigerian security agents. They will be ready for this election, and in fact, the action taken now in contact the insurgency in this country, I think it's a welcome idea, and I believe they are ready. We have the Air Force, we have the Navy, we have the Nigerian Army.
What has changed?
We have other paramilitary agencies around that will
what has changed? What has changed? Is there anything that has changed?
No, we don't believe. We don't believe.
All right, thank you very much, Yusuf Ayitogo, PDP National Vice Chairman, North Central.
Thank you
for
much.
speaking with us.